Stay tuned for tonight's adventure with the Fat Man.
Okay, here we go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time of day it is. I hope it's good to be where you are because I'm really excited to be here today. My name is Baltimore Fats, and this is the continuation of the Poe Chronicles. Yeah, okay, have fun, guys. Okay, so before I get going in on the last name, I think it's important I talk about the modern gatekeeping. Articles like this Wikipedia page and the biography videos that I watched on YouTube, they all stop with his grandfather on his father's side, and they don't make any attempt to talk about his mother's family at all, which I think is really interesting. It's only by going back and looking at biographies written after his death and up through like the 1920s that researchers or biographers even make any attempt to dig deeply into his family history. And that's what makes me think there could be some sort of modern effort to muddy his past, or certainly to keep it there, right? And so, all right, so I just wanted to keep that in mind as we're going forward. And so here we go with the Poe family name, right? And so I start with old reliable, trusty here, House of Names, right? And this is a really interesting House of Names entry because of how poorly edited and written it is. And I think that's really ironic that it happens on the Poe family page. But just to cut to the chase of it, they say that Poe is an old French nickname, right? And it meaning peacock. And I think that's rather apropos for Edgar Allan Poe because by all accounts and what they want us to believe about him was that he was quite cocky. Although I doubt he was a snazzy dresser being as poor as he was, right? But the real amazing thing about this House of Names entry is to the lengths it goes to explaining how nicknames, surnames came about and how they were an attempt to connect themselves to the older gods. And they specifically mentioned Pan here. And I'll forever be grateful to the House of Names for mentioning Pan here, because that's what I've been finding all over Baltimore, right? Little weird woodland creatures and green men and representations of Pan all over buildings here in Baltimore, right? So I think it's really amazing that they connect Poe to this aspect of it, because it's something that I've been finding a lot of here in Baltimore. Right, just absolutely incredible to me, right? And so they say here that the surname Poe was first found in Devon, where they held a family seat as the Lords of the Manor of Blackborough, and that the family can trace their ancestry to 846. I think it's a rather specific year, right? To Brittany and to the Lords of Pontcar. And I think it's funny that just looking at it today, I realized that Pontcar can be an anagram for crap on, right? And that descended from these Lords of Pontcar were the Viscounts of Pontcar, right? And they accompanied William the Conqueror at Hastings and were granted the land in Devon as a reward for their service. And so just a real quick brief history of what a Viscount is. Before the time of William the Conqueror, it was like an appointed position. It was like a sheriff or an overseer of a small fiefdom, right? But by the time of William the Conqueror and the Norman invasion and things like this, it starts to become more heraldic and does gain some nobility through intermarrying and things like this, right? And so the most amazing thing about Devon to me is its location in the southwestern peninsula here, right? Just to the south of it is Cornwall, home of Cornwallis, one of the earliest families to settle in Maryland and whose great-great-great-grandson was the commander-in-chief of the British forces during the American campaign, or as we like to call it over here, the Revolutionary War, right? But even more amazing than that is to the east is Dorset. And so Dorset is the seat of the Lords Shaftesbury, and how important they are in the role that they play in this false historical paradigm that we could be living in, right? Just absolutely unbelievable that the Poe name is so close, right? And so in Devon, it said that they were the Lords of the Manor of Blackborough, right? And so just to show you where Blackborough was in Devon, really close to Dorset, right? And I don't think I've talked about Somerset so much yet in the show at all, but it is this region, this southwestern region. It's these southwestern families that are just ringing all the bells in this story, right? It's really unbelievable. So I wanted to see what else I could find out about this Pontcar name. Okay, so I found this site, which really corroborates what's on the House of Names. But what's really amazing about it is that it suggests all these family names, Poe, Poer, Poher, Pontcar, and Power, all descend from the Lords of Pontcar in Brittany. Which I think is really interesting because if all of these names kind of just mean power, William the Conqueror installed the power into Devon when he assigned the Pontcar name that region. And they do actually name the Lord of Blackborough here on this page. But I do have another source that brings it back even further. All right, so this is an article that I found in the Edgar Allan Poe Museum out of Baltimore here, right? And we're going to be using this one quite a bit. But just here it says that The Poe ancestry seems clearly traced back through Ireland, Scotland, Wales, Germany, and France to the classic country of North Italy's Wandering Poe. Right, and so now what the Wandering Poe is the Po River Valley, or the Po Plain in northern Italy. And this is where the Etruscans come from, and early Celtic migrations passed through here on their way to Central Europe. So I think it's really amazing that the Poe family traces its origins back this far. And someday we'll get into the Etruscans and all of that as I get deeper into Baltimore someday. But I just think it's absolutely incredible that the family name goes that far back. All right, so now having this little bit of history of the Poe name, let's take a look at his immediate family and who the Poes were, right? And so that's going to have to wait until the next episode because the Poe family kicked my butt from pillar to post last night while I was recording this, and I realized I need to reorganize my thoughts on them a little bit. And so I'm going to dust myself off and go back at them next week. Just because you don't know the truth doesn't mean you can't have fun with the lie. All right, we'll see you in the next one. Cheers, guys.